What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Wrong to Strong. Súbanse a la suburba, because we're about to tell some stories. What's up, guys? I started hustling at a very young age because my my dad really didn't want to spend money on gym shoes. And there's a specific time that I remember when the Bo Jacksons came out. I was in seventh grade, and they were like, I think they were like 140 back then. And back then, 140 was pretty much like $500. So I remember like having a little bit of weed that some of the older guys would give me. When I was young, I really didn't smoke weed. I didn't start smoking weed till I was like 10, 11, 12. But when I was younger, a lot of the older guys would give me little dime bags, and I would just put it away, use it for later, sell it, get lunch for it. And but I started developing that mentality that I could sell drugs and make money, profitable. Um, so that summer, I cut a couple grasses. I remember $20. I saved up $90 to get an ounce of weed. I went and I bought my first ounce of weed, and I dimed it, all dime bags. I made about 1,300 off those 900, and I did it all over again and all over again. I bought my shoes, and from there on, I thought that I had found the answer to like making money and building a career. That's what was gonna be my career. I was gonna sell drugs, make money. I moved from an ounce to a quarter pound, and I started selling ounces now. You start moving up from dime bags to ounces, and I went from a quarter pound to a half a pound. Next thing you know, I was selling pounds because now I have access to a pound, and now it's 10, now it's 11, and that mentality of working, because a lot of people think that drug dealing is like easy. They obviously don't know that when you're drug dealing, you're like on the job 24/7. So if you really do the math on how much you're getting paid an hour, it's worse than working at McDonald's. Especially if you get caught. But you're always on the go. You're always answering your phone. You're always driving somewhere. You're always delivering. You're picking up. It's always something. So it's 24/7. But that's how I started. I started selling weed at a very young age, and it just progressed to different things. Whatever was selling, that's what I would get my hands on. There was a time where I sold acid hits for $5. I would buy a whole book of 100 hits, and I would sell acid. There was a time that I sold wiki water. I would buy it by the pint, break it up into little bottles. Crack. I sold crack too. That was one of the businesses that I tried to be an entrepreneur, and I really didn't make it because it just took a lot more cooking and all that stuff. I wasn't really good at. The first time I bought an ounce and I tried to cook it because I thought I thought I knew what I was doing. I lost the whole $900. It was gone, all water. But it's been in me since I was a kid, and I have to believe that it's just a work ethic that I picked up from my family, because all my family are workers. Nobody was a drug dealer in my family. I was the only one that chose that career. Everybody in my family has worked, labor jobs, most of my family, and everybody was really hardworking. My grandfather went to work for 63 years, never called a day in sick. So I have to believe that my hustle mentality, my entrepreneurship, all that comes from my family. I just went a different route with it. I just went a bad route. But that's what made me who I was on the streets, because I was always out there hustling. I remember the time where I asked my boss, I was like, how much am I getting paid? And he said, $2 per rock. So I was like, you get only $2 for every rock I sell? And he's like, yeah. At the time, I didn't know how fast it was gonna go, but I was like, $2 is nothing. Well, I didn't realize that the traffic was so much that every night that I sold, that I worked for him, I would make close to $1,000. And I was okay with that, you know. I was being 14, having $1,000 in your pocket. That's a lot of money. There was a time where in Chicago that was like the biggest business, you know, crack cocaine. Everybody on the South Side, a lot of the black gangs were moving there. They were selling it, and it was big business for everybody. But the cops were also cracking down too. The place where I was selling at, we had an apartment set up, we had a shop, everything. It was all very organized. The day that they raided us, they made a mistake. They raided the apartment underneath us. So I heard all the commotion. I heard everything that was happening, and I went straight to the bathroom and tried to get rid of everything. But we had guns in the apartment. We had stolen equipment. We had a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been there. And when the cops came in, I remember I was trying to run for the front door. All I seen as soon as I opened the door was a big shotgun. And they came in, they found the guns, they found the property, they arrested us. And this is one of those moments where I know now, not then, I know now that God was working in my life even when I didn't know. That case right there, I had just gotten out from a gun case. That case right there would have set me back for a minimum of 10 years because of the guns and everything that was there. But when I went to court, the cop that was the arresting officer did not recognize me in the room, and all charges were dropped. I walked out of that courtroom that day. If that wasn't God, I don't know what was God, but I walked out that day, and at the moment I was thanking God, but just like everybody else, as soon as I got back in the free world and I got back to doing my own thing, I forgot how close I came to losing my freedom, and I was back at it again. It wasn't until I did my long stretch in the feds that I really sat down and thought about my life, really thinking about it, because I had sold drugs most of my life. It's pretty much all I knew how to do. So when I came here to Arizona, it was hard for me. It was hard for me because I left an environment where it was easy for me to get drugs, sell drugs. I could just make some calls and I could come up on something real quick to be able to make some money. So when I moved out here, it was a big change. I didn't have the same connects. I didn't have the same people. It's not my neighborhood. It's a different backyard, and it was tough. It was tough, but I found my way, and it's crazy because you move from places or you leave places to get away from stuff, but you can't get away from you. You always bring you with you. And that's what I did. I moved out here and I brought all my addictions with me, all my problems, all my everything. I brought them with me. And all that happened is that once I got here, it was a little bit different because now here, my gang is not watching over me. My gang is not hovering over me. So, I go all out here. I start using drugs. I became a full-blown addict when I moved to Phoenix. I started drinking. I started doing drugs. That's the one thing that in Chicago, they kept me in check because I would drink, but I wouldn't do drugs. I moved out here and I went crazy. And I have to believe that me being alone also out here with like nobody made me a little bit more depressed too, and it just fed that demon, and I started spending years and years in strip clubs, massage parlors, and just feeding that addiction. I moved out here with close to $180,000, and that's without the vehicles, the jewelry, and all that. And I was broke in like 90 days. Um, I was spending money. I was drinking. It was crazy because I went from having the restaurant, having all that stuff, to having nothing. And having to go look for a job to pretty much eat. And that's what got me a little bit more depressed because in my head, I was like, wow, look at you. You went from being someone to being a no one. And it's not right the way I'm saying it, but that's how I felt. I went from being a drug dealer to an addict. I went completely the other way. So the depression got hard, and I tried everything. I tried solutions. I tried a bunch of places out here, like rehab centers and all that stuff. And I would clean up, but that demon was still there. It was still there. It wasn't until I got older and I ended up in Victorville. That's when I had to think about my future and say, okay, like, am I gonna die old, like with all these addictions, all these problems, all this toxicity? Am I gonna die like this? And that's when I really started like soul searching and really like thinking about how or what I had to do to kind of like clean up and change my life, because I didn't know where to start. The addiction was the least of my worries. I had a bunch of other stuff too, PTSD, just a lot of stuff. And man, I didn't even know how to have a relationship with myself, let alone be alone. So it was like coming out and trying to throw that dart on the donkey's tail, man, to tell you the truth, because everything that government offered me, all the classes, all that, really didn't help to prepare me for what was going to happen once I got out. And I'm not going to lie, like, I was really close to going back a couple of times because it gets frustrating when you really want to change, but you don't know how. You don't know how. And you keep wondering, like, what's wrong with you? Are you broken? What's wrong with you? 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I got on my knees and I asked God to help me. I asked him to just give me an idea of what I needed to do to change. And man, my life changed from that day on. I was never a Bible thumper. I was never really into religion like that. Even in prison, even in the darkest times, I really, I would call for him when I needed money. I would call for him when I was afraid, but it wasn't on daily basis like it is now. It wasn't on. I didn't believe. I believe today. Like, I believe, I have faith. Like, I know what he's doing in my life. The people that I've met, the things that I'm doing, the jobs that I'm being offered, like it's him that's in my life, that's working in my life. And a lot of things have changed. A lot of my stuff that I had to work on is slowly fading away. I'm not perfect, and I'm far from it, but I still have some things that I'm working, but things have changed a lot in me. My addiction has changed, my controlling stuff. A lot of things have changed, but it's been because I train on regular basis to stay in a good, I guess you could say, in a clean manner, to stay like focused, to stay on the grind. Eating good, working out, all the stuff that I used to do for my mental health in prison, I make sure that I do it out here, because sometimes I start slipping. And it's very important, especially if you've done time, to keep doing the things that you did in there to make it, doable. All those things in there were to reduce your stress, working out, reading, eating good, fellowshipping with your boys, all that stuff. You have to keep doing it out here. And the number one thing that a lot of the guys that do when they get out is they stop working out. And that's like the number one thing that made you, a badass in there is like, why stop out here? Another thing, they stop reading, they stop learning once they get out, and that's something that should never stop. It's why I created my program, the USP Max program, because I felt that I needed to meet them where they were at, just like I was where I was. I needed to teach them things that they forgot to do that they learned in prison, but they needed to learn to do them out here. And that's what it is, man. Like all these videos, all this social media, the programs, everything is it's just learning tools, man. It's learning tools for guys, women, kids that have been down that road and just want a different life. Change is possible, and a lot of things happen with change. New people come into your life, new jobs, new experiences, new opportunities. A lot of things change, but you got to be willing to take that chance. Hey, my name is JC. I am Wrong to Strong. Don't forget to subscribe, hit a like, leave a comment, start following, because we are going to create so much content you're not going to know what to do with it. I'll catch you on the rebound.